Hey folks, Rob here with another C64 gameplay. This time we're taking to the skies in Tomahawk, originally released on the Spectrum in 1985 by Digital Integration and converted for the C64 a year later. This is essentially, I guess, a follow-up to their previous simulator, which was called Fighter Pilot, and this puts you in the seat of a good old Apache attack helicopter. So I've just had a quick run through, and I have to admit this is close to first impressions. I've only had a quick play on it, and it's a pretty in-depth game from the period, which is pretty surprising. So you basically have these 4 missions. They're explained in the docs, but essentially mission 1 is a training run, mission 2 is a simple sector attack, and 3 and 4 are more complex attack missions. You've got your time and weather conditions, your cloud base, whether you want crosswinds and turbulence, which we don't want, we're still getting used to it, pilot rating, self-explanatory, and we'll take off. So as you can sort of see, this is still that era where they really weren't pushing the hardware well for simulators, but impressive they did do 3D. So first thing we'll have to do is take off, which is just get the engine spinning up. So it's a different approach to, say, Supercure, you know how the systems are implemented here. So I've just spun the engine up. Now we've got to raise the collective to get off the ground. So you can sort of see the frame rate isn't particularly great. The controls themselves are surprisingly logical. It was W and S for the throttle, Q and A for the collective. So it makes sense. We just have to get off. Yeah, joystick import 2, and then go through some of the other systems as we go. Kind of off the ground a bit. So I'll slow down. I'll bring the map up. So in this case, we're in the blue sector. Oh, okay. We're in the blue sector, and we're identified by a blue helicopter. The enemies have a chopper, which is the red one, and they hold the red sector. And in this case, it's really just a case of just going to missions and going to bases and clearing them. So let's get back in control. So let's pull forward to get some speed. And as usual, as you increase your speed, you want to increase the collective a little further in height. And now we'll switch tracking modes. So at the moment, we're tracking beacons. Oh no, we're tracking the landing pad. So next thing we want to do is really track air to air and go for that helicopter, which is the C. So now we're targeting ground targets. I believe that means we're looking at an allied target there. So we're going to change to air targets. So, the downside is that there is a bit of a lag to the controls because of the speed, which is not surprising when it comes to a game of this era. But even just fighting to keep a helicopter aloft compared to other flight games, helicopter is a much more complex helipad ground target compared to other. Oh, wait, I have to pause. I can't remember the weapon controls. Oh gosh. I'm actually looking at I have the instruction leaflet next to me, and it's like, and it's funny enough that I can't actually remember everything. P. Alright. P changes. So you can see there's an enemy target within those trees there. So I'll come around for another pass. In this case I just fired off a few rockets. So, as usual the case with an Apache attack helicopter, you've got 3 weapons configured. The first is the chain gun, which is pretty much good for light targets. That's tracking rockets. Ooh, let's fire one of those. That's one of the guided missiles. Thanks. So we go there. And we have a hit. So we've got our chain gun, our rockets, and Hellfire missiles. Yes, and that is where my name came from. So we've taken that out. As always the case, you just bring up the map, work out where your objectives are, and proceed. Ooh, might be going a little too high this far, so try and cut some height down. Change mode and target to air target. So you can see on our right we've got the instrumentation that shows us what mode we're in, which is the little double lightning bolt for the air mode, along with you know, our current heading and our heading to our objective, which in this case is going to be another helicopter. Really don't want to hit those mountains. Yeah, I mean, the only downside is because of the frame rate, the controls do lag a bit, which is a little disappointing. But it would kind of be expected for these kind of games. You know, I'm impressed that they actually got it going on the 64, and they've got, you know, pretty complicated set of display. And on top of that, you know, flying a helicopter is a lot more complex than a jet. You know, the physics involved in doing so, you know, having to balance all these control inputs, it's definitely much more impressive that they got it running. I mean, I think this came out before Gunship, so you've got to give them props for that. There is, of course, a lot of imagination involved. In this case, you know, these mountains. Alright, now we've got this chopper in range. We can see that cluster right, we've got the red helicopter icon, and above that, though hard to read, is a distance meter, so about 7,200 from it. So at this point, we really just have to approach. Yeah, we're about a mile away. You know, I believe the chain gun, which is what I've got selected now, is about 2,000 units. Yeah, can see the helicopter now. Good. Just line up. Not quite in range. We're getting there though. Our helicopter's been taken down. Excellent. Let's go to the map. Let's go to ground targets. So change to beacon. Oh, is it a helicopter now? So we want to go to 0. So let's go to... Oops. Again, it's this lag on the controls, which is really annoying. 82. Cool. So let's go east. Yeah, you are always, you know, as I said, you're always fighting to keep this thing aloft, which is really what flying a helicopter is like. You know, it's why it's one of the more dangerous vehicles out there. But I'm impressed they got this detail in there. I mean, the manual does actually credit the manufacturers of the Apache itself to sort of thank them for assistance, which does actually mean there's, you know, quite a bit of authenticity for the time. And to be honest, I'm impressed that they, you know, squeezed everything into a single load, which is always impressive for the era, but which makes sense as digital integration were a team out of the UK, so they'd be, you know, optimizing for a tape system. keep lining it up. Alright. Put a bit more speed and lower our height a bit. So we don't want to go too low, because even now, and obviously they're on the other side of those mountains, so we'll have to fly around the mountains again. I mean, I'm impressed, like I said, I'm impressed with everything from a simulation perspective. As I do, I'm feeling like I'm actually in control of a fairly uncontrollable vehicle. I'm impressed, they managed to get the detail, proper balancing of the torque and collective, to keep you aloft. You look at other helicopter games, I know Gunship has a whole bunch of configurable options, and I've never actually sat down for it in full simulator mode, so I'd love to see how that compares. Maybe a future video. And as a kid I put a lot of time into Super Huey, which was probably the first real attempt at simulating a helicopter on the 64. So we need to get to about 83. Yeah, I think I've talked enough about the lag due to the frame rate, but I think it's expected on 8-bit hardware. Oop. We want to try and lower our altitude a bit so we can try and avoid some of these targets. Try and level out now. Alright, let's switch mode to ground target. Alright, we've got to be careful now because we've got to line up with this guy, which we're almost in range of. That was close. That is seat of the pants flying. Try to come around for another pass and use the rockets. I don't know, I guess that technically was a tank, because there are some of the vehicles that can't be taken out by your chain gun, which makes sense, obviously, as it doesn't exactly have armor-piercing rounds. Come up for another pass. Why not? Excellent. Alright. So let's change. I've got a helicopter approaching. I don't know whether I should go engage that instead. Oh, it's not too far. Let's go and engage. Alright. If I understand the display correctly, I think it means we've got a helicopter inbound, so I think I might have to change targets. Ooh. So, I mean, sound effects? There's not really much to talk about there. I mean, you've just got the basic weapons fire, the wobbling of the helicopter engines. Nothing is really that impressive. You know, the occasional spot effects, you know, which makes sense, you know. You couldn't get to the stage where you're sampling real helicopters, helicopter weapons, you know, the weapon systems, the rotors, the engines, in this era of hardware, and there probably wasn't much room to run some music stuff, and in game it would completely ruin the atmosphere. Almost in chain gun range. And he's down. Let's go back to ground targeting. We can play pad. Alright. Switch to rockets and hopefully we can get him on the first pass. Excellent. Alright, we've got a tank there, so I need the One thing surprising is how little time this took to click. So I had a few plays yesterday or the other day when I was just actually testing this out. So it's actually a fairly recent arrival. And you know, I sort of picked up the flying part not too bad, and you know, I had a quick run earlier before I actually sat down to record, just to get used to some of the weapons systems, and I didn't do that well. I thought this would be a fairly quick video, but in this case it's actually going a lot better than Thirst Fort. Let's level out so we don't go too much lower. And we've got the range counter ticking over, which is good. Now I can't remember what the range for these is, so I might just have to check. Let's range check it on. Excellent. Next target. Yeah, I have to admit, playing this over a composite feed is actually making it a little easier because I can at least read the instrumentation. I would have feared if I was actually playing this how I used to play back in the day, which is on a RF connection, it would look utterly terrible. I probably wouldn't be able to read the instrumentation at all. But here, actually, the fairly compact font does look okay. Were they just ahead of their time? I don't know. Maybe I guess they did have a lot of information to squeeze in. I mean, it's interesting they went for this approach of sort of a lot of simpler bars, and a lot of readouts compared to... there's another tank. I'm just going to use a missile and target down. Let's say target 6. Alright. I mean, I know you get points for using... I know, like, using the the Hellfire missiles earns you less points according to instructions than using rockets or a chain gun. And I guess it makes sense because of the range, which is actually rather nice, you know, trick to, you know, being precise with your flying. You know, actually try to come in closer. There's another target there. I'll switch to rockets for that because we can. There he is. I don't know, I'm actually really engrossed with this. Alright. Let's go through the target rings. I'll see how we go. I might actually try and just take out another couple of targets, then return to base to end to at least refuel, and I might call that a mission. But this is definitely one I think I'm going to want to go back to because it's really been engrossing. Just getting control of the helicopter and doing a quick pass over targets. It's actually feeling very solid to play. And so I'm going to have to recommend checking it out if you're a flight sim fan. I mean, I noticed that the instructions do mention an Atari 8-bit version. I'm tempted to want to check it out on my 800XL and see how it compares, like how the extra hardware of the Atari, you know, extra CPU hardware runs. And same with seeing it on the Spectrum. Be interesting to see how it plays there as well, simply because both those machines were a little more powerful and had a bit of a better bitmap display than the C64 does, so they probably run this game a lot better. But that's something for me to do another time, and, you know, not while I'm waffling on a video. Alright, we're coming up now. Alright, those are my last rockets, that's not good. Hey, change weapon, damn it. Alright. I ran out of rockets. I've realised how the weapon display works there. So at the bottom, kind of just offset to the centre, you can see the 4 X's are, you know, indicating my missiles. Those bars are obviously for the chain gun, and there were little dots to the sides that were the rockets. So in this case, I'm now out of rockets, and probably the best thing to do is return to base. So let's change to beacon helipad. So yeah, what I'm doing is I'm hitting C to change the modes. You can see that there's, you know, above the engine, nav, weapons, T, ADS designations, which is damage systems, there's a little readout that, like, now it says H0, which means, you know, helipad, first helipad. It's a little odd. B's for beacons, which is, I think, just random areas on, like, waypoints. T is ground targets, and it tracks, like, there's certain ones that track, like, one helipad, a number of beacons. Actually, I see the helicopter is approaching, so we can target that. Alright. There he is. I see him. Masters, I let the collective go a little high there because I'm pretty high up now. Oops. But hey, it's part of the fun. see the target now. Come on, line up. Excellent, helicopter's down. Now, let's return to base. I haven't tried landing yet. And landing in a helicopter is always a tricky prospect. So 70 degrees. We're actually surprisingly close, which is nice. So I think the first thing to do is just lower that altitude, slow down as well, because rather approach this at a nice slow speed and then come in and hopefully not crash. That was probably a bit of a dangerous thing to drop it that far. Alright, so we've overshot it a bit, because I can tell that much because we're now pointing at 270. So I'm going to try and just drop the speed a little further. Okay, bring it down. Oops. No. Oh. That wasn't what I wanted at all. That was not what I wanted at all. So, well, we can sort of see that was our first bit of the mission. Now, in this case, it's actually not game over when you crash, as I've got an extra 2 lives. I can go back into the air and take out more enemies. But in this case, I think that's more than long enough for a good demo of how Tomahawk works. Yeah, I do recommend, if you are a sim fan and you've got the patience to, you know, go through the manual and play around with it, definitely do check it out. It seems like it's quite a fun sim. I mean, you know, a lot less of the pomp and circumstance a lot of Microprose releases would later have. As atmospheric as that is, you know, you can just get in and have a quick fly rather than swapping discs or tapes or whatever. And it looks great. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. As usual, if you enjoyed it, do leave a thumbs up and, you know, some feedback below. And I look forward to bringing you another game next time.